Hello, everybody out there. We welcome Coach Willie Fritz to the show. The Kansas native became the 16th head coach of Houston Cougars history on December 3rd, 2023. Coach Fritz began his head coaching career at Blinn Junior College in Brenham, winning 2 national championships and finishing with a 39-5 record before taking over Central Missouri. He's also had successful stops at Sam Houston, Georgia Southern, and Tulane. He's won at least 1 conference championship at all 4 of his 4-year college stops and is 247 and 121 as a head coach. Coach Fritz, welcome to the show. Welcome back to Texas. And we wanted to ask you if you've been able to get a day or 2 off since taking over the job. And if so, what does Willie Fritz do to unwind outside of coaching?
Oh, I don't do anything, but you forgot a tie. I got a tie in there someplace too. My first year as a head coach was 1993 at Blinn, and it was the last year you could have a tie. They invented something called overtime that next year. So I do have a tie in there somewhere. Oh, I don't do much to relax. I really don't. I've told people I don't fish, I don't golf, I don't hunt. This is so time consuming, especially when you're getting into a program, and all the programs that I've taken over, I've inherited, and I've gotten there have been, jobs that have been kind of turnaround jobs. And so there's just not enough hours in the day. And when I do have off time, I like to spend it with my family and, my friends. And I'm very fortunate. One of the big draws for me to come here to the University of Houston is my daughters both live here. I've got 2 daughters. They live here, and then my son works for me. And he and his wife blessed us with our first grandchild. And so, I got my whole family here in Houston. So it's a lot of fun to be able to see them every day, and just really excited about this, I think, unbelievable opportunity here at U of H.
Coach, congratulations on becoming having a new grandbaby. You talk about your family there living in the Houston area. I've seen you at a lot of Houston basketball games recently, cheering on the #1 ranked Cougars. And your daughter, Lainey, was in sports broadcasting, talking with and covering Cullen Sampson. What's it been like just rooting on Houston basketball and going to some of those games, getting your feet wet?
It's been a lot of fun. I've told our players, hey, they're a model for us to follow. They're showing that you can, right now they're #1 team in the nation in college basketball. That's difficult to do. It's difficult in football. It's real difficult in basketball because I think they have maybe 3 times the amount of universities that compete at the Division I level. So that's really neat. And something else too is, obviously I'm very close to my daughter, and she covered Coach, as you said before, and she always bragged on him long before I took this job. And what a great guy and person he is. He's a family guy like me. I think he's got his son and his daughter working for him. His wife's at every ball game. So, we got probably a lot of common ground between the 2 of us. So it's always better when you have one of your kids or your wife tell you about how great of a person somebody is when you first meet him, and he's certainly held true to that.
I want to go a little bit back when you were playing defensive back and point guard at Pittsburgh State during your college days.
Way back.
Yeah, way back. What was the scouting report on Coach Fritz, especially on the basketball court? I'd like to know what the scouting report there was on basketball player Willie Fritz.
And Coach, before you answer, I want to show you a photo that we've got pulled up for those.
Oh yeah, I have photos every place.
I've got Coach Fritz right here in a number 26 jersey with a full mohawk, and that's a skin fade mohawk right there.
My college coach was a guy named Ron Randleman. And as a matter of fact, I just talked to him about an hour or 2 ago, and he's going to come over and I'm going to show him the facilities. He still lives in Huntsville, but coached me at Pittsburgh State, and then he took the job down at Sam Houston State. Had an incredible amount of success there, and he's kind of like a dad to me. It's the reason why I really got into this profession. Point guard, I was a 1. They called me back then, and what a point guard, a 1 is a guy who can dribble but can't shoot. A 2 is a guy who can shoot but can't dribble. A 3 is a guy who can score a little bit but can't rebound. A 4 is a guy who can rebound but he can't shoot. And a 5 can't do any of those things. No, that's just an old basketball joke. But I really enjoyed basketball. I coached it a little bit when I first got done playing. And I actually went to my high school Hall of Fame here a couple of weeks ago, and I went to one of their basketball games. They got an undefeated team there at Shawnee Mission Northwest High School. My oldest, not my oldest brother, one of my older brothers he has won a bunch of games. He's won way over 700 games in his high school coaching career, and his wife has won way over 600 games. They're both won a ton of state championships. So I enjoy going and watching basketball, and I guess that's one of my hobbies is watching hoops. And I just really enjoy watching Coach Sampson's team play. I mean, it's now that I'm the head coach here, I get good seats. I don't have to sit real high. It's really neat watching guys. I have to refrain from thinking to myself, man, that guy would be a strong safety. That guy would be a tight end. This guy would be a heck of a wide receiver. We're going to run a nice fade route in the goal line in the end zone to this guy. But it's really neat to watch how hard they play. And that's one of the things I've told our players here. Hey, man, we're going to play as hard on the football field as those guys play on the basketball court. So just a lot of fun, watching other sports. I've always tried to provide some, support for other coaches. My old man was the athletic director, and so I grew up going to all the different, sporting events, and I take something from each one of the events that I go to and see. I can't wait to start going out to the baseball games, and I love watching volleyball. That's the toughest one for me to watch because it's during my season. But yeah, I tell you something that's a thrill for me here at U of H is going and Coach Blackburn with the track team, and then Carl Lewis. He had a little bit of success with track. I tell my players all the time that you talk about the 10 greatest athletes in all sports in U.S. history. He's got to be in the top 10, I'm guessing. Michael Jordan's in there someplace, but Carl Lewis is certainly in there as well, 9 gold medals. So that's neat seeing him around the building. I've probably talked to him 50 times since I've been here at the University of Houston. So I don't know. I got off on a tangent. Sometimes I do that, but yeah, I enjoy all sports.
So, Coach, we mentioned your resume before, football guy through and through, coach at every level, D2, D1, FCS, JUCO. Why Houston? Why Power 4? Why now?
I wanted to do it at the highest level. I've turned programs around at every level except, Power 4 and Division 3. Probably the truest level of collegiate athletics. Where kids are doing it just for love of the game, no scholarship or anything like that. But I wanted to do it at the highest level, and Houston was just a really good fit for me. It with my family, with my background at Blinn Junior College and Sam Houston State. I even coached here high school ball at Willis in Willis, Texas. So it was just a really good fit for me. I was drawn to the athletic director. I've enjoy working for a guy that played football this is his alma mater, Chris Pesman, and so he's got a little invested in Cougar football. You want that out of your athletic director as well. And the difference in this program and maybe some of the other programs that I've taken over is that they've had great success here at the University of Houston, and they just haven't done it yet at the Power 4 level, because we just entered that level this last year. So that's also something that attracted me to the position, is that they have had some great teams here at the University of Houston, with Coach Yeoman and Coach Briles and Coach Harmon and Coach Sumlin. There's a bunch of coaches I'm going to leave some out, but a bunch of coaches that have had outstanding success here at the University of Houston.
You were up the road in Huntsville from 2010 to 2013 as the head coach of Sam Houston. What are your thoughts on what Coach Keeler's done with that program? And then what were your initial thoughts when you heard they were moving up to the FBS?
Well, I think they can definitely do it. I'm really close friends with Bobby Williams, their athletic director. Bobby and I were together when I was a GA there. We worked together in 1984 and 85, and then I came back as a coordinator in 91, 92. I actually took his place. He got into administration, and he was the guy who hired me there. And we had a lot of conversations about it. I've got a degree from there. Two of my children have got degrees from Sam Houston State. So it's when I first went there as a GA, I think they had about 9,000 students, and now they're up to 24,000 students. So yeah, I think they can definitely compete at the Division I level.
Does the job change? Like, you coach at JUCO, you coach in the FCS level, you coach at the G5, now P5. Is there differences between those stops, or is ball in a lot of those ways?
Football is football, but you got to figure out what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and what you can do and can't do at each level in terms of scholarships, budget, facilities, all those different kind of things. That's another thing that lured me here to University of Houston, and thank goodness they offered me the job. Is we're going to have unbelievable facilities. We're opening up brand new football only facilities in July of 2025. So this next class we're recruiting, that's all they're going to know. And then I also feel like in this day and age, with name, image, and likeness, we're in a pretty good city to do that. And we got over 300,000 alums, and over 200,000 of those are in the greater Houston area. That's another area that I was very happy about when I took this job, is the fact that in the year 2024, NIL is very, very important, and at a great level here at the University of Houston.
Coach, filling out your football staff, one of the most important hires you made was your son, Wes. He's now going to be director of player personnel at Houston, but he's been with you since Tulane, and you guys were famous for taking under-recruited guys, and there was 15 dudes from Tulane in the NFL. 11 of those guys you were their only Division I offer. Who's a guy you remember that Wes stood on the table for and was like, we need to get this guy in the building, and he turned out to be a success?
Almost every one of them. Got the big plaque up here in my wall, and two of them, Tajay Spears, who's a third-round draft pick of the Tennessee Titans and just killed it up there this year, and then Dorian Williams, who's third-round draft pick of the Buffalo Bills, who killed it up there as well. I was at a Houston basketball game here. I guess that was last night. Is that right, Andrew? My days mixed up. I've been working so much. But Ed Oliver was there at the ball game. He plays with the Bills, all pro, great player, played at the University of Houston, obviously. And he was bragging about what a stud Dorian Williams, the kid I had at Tulane was. So those were two guys that he was on early and, stood on the table for. Probably the guy, Darnell Mooney. I don't know if you guys have heard of Darnell before. Plays the Chicago Bears. We were his only Division I offer. We were those guys' only Division I offer too. Dorian and Tajay, but Darnell qualified the last week. We had to have test scores and all those things at Tulane. It's a high-end academic institution, and he wasn't very big. He's probably 5'10", 150 some pounds, and hadn't been at any camps. We didn't have verified, measurements on him or speed on him, and we brought him in, and by the time he graduated, we did a great job of developing him. Obviously, that's the kid first doing it. I get tired of listening to coaches. Oh, I got this guy to work. If the kid didn't want to do it, you're not going to get him to that level. But Darnell, is actually training here with us. He's in his whatever they call it, the next contract with the Bears. And I saw the other day that he's a second-ranked wide receiver that's an unrestricted free agent right now. And he just had a whale of a career for us. got drafted by the Bears, and I don't know, I had 150, 200 catches for him. But that was a guy that I was kind of like, Wes, I don't know about that, and he talked me into it. And, we had two, and then we had another linebacker, Nick Anderson, that, our coaches didn't want, and he stood on the table for Nick, who was with the Saints for a while, and Dorian. And luckily, I listened to him, took him.
This is your fifth stop at the 4-year college level as a head coach. What are the differences between taking over a program now and doing the turnaround compared to even as soon as maybe Tulane 5, 6, 7 years ago? It has to be a much different situation than then.
Yeah, it's the portal. It's the NIL. That's the two things that we didn't have when I took over at Tulane. Instead of getting out, I mean, you got to start recruiting your guys right then and there when you get in. And even though people say they don't do it, everybody's recruiting. Your squad, your roster, and it's that's just part of it. So we did a really nice job, I think, of retaining the majority of our squad, and then also going out and using the portal to our advantage. I think we signed some really good kids out of the portal. And, I took over on December the 4th. Finals started that day.
Mm-hmm.
So guys were gone. And you just didn't have a chance to establish a relationship with guys like you used to be able to do in the old days, where they gave you, they were there with you for a semester, and you got to know the kids. They got to see what you were all about. You got to see what they were all about. So that's the biggest difference is, NIL and also the portal. And, I don't talk about it much because it's here. I hear some of my head coaching brethren, sit around and whine and moan about it. Hey man, I'm blessed to be the head coach here, and you just got to adapt and improvise. And I think I've done a good job of that over my career, changing. I'm not the same coach I was when I took over Blinn College in 1993.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably get thrown in jail if I did the same thing I did back in 1993. Now I was tough, man. I was really tough, and things have changed, and probably being a father and having kids older than the kids I coach now has helped me transition into the year 2024 as well.
Just to follow up on that real quick, the last four hires in the state of Texas, right? GJ Kinney at Texas State, 34 years old. Eric Morris at North Texas was 37. Scotty Walden at UTEP was 34. You're older than that. Is that the key to kind of a little older than that? Is that kind of the key to staying relevant and staying good at this job for so long, is just not being the same guy that you were when you first hired and always evolving?
You got to evolve. And, I view my age and my experience as a gift. I tell parents, there's not a situation or scenario that's going to occur with your son that I haven't dealt with on numerous occasions, good and bad, it's a big deal. They're entrusting their son to come and play for me for 4 years. And it's, 18 to 22 years of age, that's huge time period in your life. You screw up then, you're probably going to, not have a successful life. You do a good job 18 to 22, you're cooking with grease. You're going to have a great life. It's going to have a great first job. One of the things I'm most proud of is at Tulane, every kid that went through the program, we graduated, and that's not easy to do, and I stay on top of that right now. And I told a young man the other day, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to stay after your butt about going to class every day, getting your assignments turned in. And, we class check every day here. And this is a tough campus to do that. This is a big campus. Tulane, I can walk around in 5 minutes, and I got people doing all these things for me. We got, back in the old days at Blinn, I did all that. I advised, schedule, and enroll student athletes. I was the strength coach. I taped ankles. I lined the fields, and besides coaching, but here we just want to make sure that we do a good job with them off the field, on the field, and in the classroom, and I don't know. I think Coach Pesman was not afraid to hire a guy that, has got the experience that I've got. You just kind of look over at the men's basketball team. He's doing a decent job.
Coach, you mentioned you've been taping ankles. You drove the team bus before. You've said before you used to diesel the field at Blinn College.
Yeah.
What is dieseling the field?
Back in the old days, you didn't have enough money. You didn't have a budget to paint the field, every single time. So your practice fields, you would diesel it, and then that would hold for the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
It's you can't do that now. It's environmentally illegal to do that now. But that's what everybody did back then. And you diesel it one time, and it would take you about 3 or 4 hours because you had to get those lines exactly straight and perfect. And our staff would go out and do it, and that's what dieseling a field is. I've had some younger coaches say they've done it before, and they're full of crap. People haven't done that for 20, 30 years. So I know
Carter's a little young. My grandfather was a coach, and I used to have to do that back when I was a kid.
Did you?
You couldn't get the smell. You couldn't get the smell out for a few days, but
Exactly.
it did work.
You're exactly right.
Coach, you've been doing this a long time, and you mentioned how you've evolved over your experience through college football. But one thing that hasn't really changed is you're always a 50-50 ball club in terms of the run and pass. And you mentioned a tie when Craven was talking about your records earlier. I want to see, you've cited your record when you get one more rushing yard than the opponent and when you get one less rushing yard than the opponent. I want to see if you remember this off the top of your head. Do you remember your record? I got it right here. Do you remember your record when you get one more rushing
I remember my record, but I think it's 86% win when we have 1 yard more rushing. And I think it's like 38% win when you have 1 yard less.
So
It's not to say my record is the same as what it is, irregardless of whether you pass for 1 more yard or you pass for 1 fewer yard, same percentage winning. Hey, we're going to do what our guys can do. I've always done that, but I think you got to have a strong running attack. You got to be able to stop people running the ball and make them one-dimensional. And there's times in ball games, we took a knee to win 4 games last year. At the end of the game, we took knees, and it was a touchdown or less, where we ran out the clock, and we were able to go ahead and take knees and run the game clock out. And we couldn't have done that if we were didn't have the ability to run the football when we wanted to run the football. So yeah, I always tell the story when I was a young coach, I went to a clinic, and Don James spoke. You guys remember Don James? No. Won a national championship at the University of Washington, 1991, and turned that program around. He was the head coach at Kent State and got the job at Washington. Probably the last time Kent State won, consistently. He had 2 good players that played for him there, Gary Pinkel and a guy named Nick Saban. Played
pretty good.
So, decent players, decent coaches, right? But anyway, he talked about it. You got to have a philosophy if you're going to become a head coach. And I knew at an early age I wanted to be a head coach. And I was learning from all the guys that I worked for, Coach Randall, that we just got done talking about. And he said you got to emphasize what's important to you. And so that's how I came up with our plan to win. And it's slightly different than what Coach James had as his plan to win. And it was interesting when I took over that job at Central Missouri. Coach Pinkel was head coach at Missouri, and he had a plan to win, which is slightly different than what I emphasize. But it just part of it. I've had some quarterbacks who've thrown. I'm gonna have a quarterback who's gonna get drafted here in a month or so. The kid who played for me at Tulane, Michael Pratt. But if we're really good at throwing the ball, we're gonna throw it more than we run it. We start off always trying to be a 50-50 team, and I think that helps your whole team. It helps your defense out as well. being able to be a 50-50 type team, and you see some teams that throw the ball 80% of the time, and they, generally speaking, they don't have a real good defense. I'm sure it's an example of one of them that does, but so that's what I, always start off being a 50-50 team. Then we see what we can do good. Hey, at Georgia Southern, we led the nation in rushing one year, 383 yards a game rushing. And then the next year we dropped down to 363. We led the nation in rushing that year too. But that was our plan to win because we couldn't throw it very well. I inherited a under center triple option team from Coach Monken. So that's how we did it.
Before we get you out of here, I wanted to ask you, one last question, and this one about spring practices coming up. Nowadays with the roster turnover, what can you get accomplished in spring practice? What do you hope to get accomplished in spring practices? And what do you value when you're looking at a team and you're practicing for that first time?
I love spring ball. I love preseason camp. I get to work with every kid on the team. All right. We're going against each other. Everything's very competitive. I grade every team drill that we do 7-on-7 inside, 1-on-1 team periods on effort and who won the rep. Someone's winning, someone's losing. So you can get a ton accomplished. The NCAA is allowing you to do some more things, than you used to be able to do in the past. In the summer, you get to have a football out there with you for 2 hours a week. Can't do competitive things against each other, but there's a lot of things that you can install. And, by the time we get done with spring football, we'll have our offense in, our defense in, and also our special teams in. And that gives you a chance to compete in the fall. So, and then we do things in the summer too. Now the NCAA's, loosen up the reins a little bit in terms of what you can do in the summer. So, I'm very excited about next week starting spring football and working with our guys and getting to see what they can and can't do and then making adjustments with what you do defensively. I'm very heavily involved in the kicking game. I'm big time into tackling. I'm big time into ball security offensively, but I'm also kind of the general manager of the team. And I look and see sometimes coaches can't see the forest for the trees. They don't see what a guy is really capable of doing. They're running fly sweeps with this one dude when they should be doing it with this guy or another guy, or they're doing run plays that is not in this guy's wheelhouse. He's more of an outside zone guy than an inside zone guy. So it's going to be fun to see what our guys are capable of doing this spring. And they've worked extremely hard and I'm just, so blessed that these guys are allowing me to coach them every single day. And I get to do that during spring ball as well.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on here and welcome back to the great state of Texas, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Go Cougs.